The Brown Park Podcast is brought to you by Grow Clinics. They're Australia's leading hair transplant clinics, and you can go to growclinics.com.au. Hello. There's a great book or a great phrase that came from a book by a guy called Timothy Leary. And it was called Turn On, Tune In, Drop Out.
Oh, yep.
That is precisely what our guest on the show has done today.
Let's do it.
The Brown Park Podcast.
Question.
Yeah?
This will hold some relevance to the podcast we're doing today.
Yeah.
How long do you reckon...
None. Zero time.
How long do you reckon you could spend on your own? I mean, let's say you didn't have a family, right? You didn't have that connection or whatever. Yeah. How long could you spend on your own if you had a cabin in the woods? How long do you reckon you could stay there for without any interaction?
Rest of my life.
I reckon I could see you just being quite content, just being there on your own.
Everybody else, fuck off. I'm on my own.
You get a knock on the door in the woods and be like, fuck off.
No one home. Sorry. I don't know how I'd go with the whole food thing. Could I have Uber deliver stuff or like milk run or something like that? Could they drop food for me? That
would be your biggest challenge, wouldn't it? Like, because you're not quite the forager or hunter, are you?
No.
All right, well.
And I don't know how I'd go, like, if there's a random bird that I need to cook, like, trying to catch it, crack its neck, peel it, do all that. No, peel it? That's how much of a hunter I actually am.
You're going to peel a chicken.
Get out my chicken peeler.
Get your chicken peeler and, oh, my God.
All right, our guest today is a former reporter for Channel 9 and Channel 7 in Australia, where he was a senior reporter. His name's Denham Hitchcock. He's been to Iraq. He's travelled with the Pope. He's reported on hurricanes, cyclones. He's been on the red carpet of the Oscars interviewing celebrities. He's pretty much done it all.
So now he's dropped out of the hustle and bustle of the day-to-day grind, and he's living on a boat in Fiji. And we're going to cross to him on his boat. It's a little bit windy, but Denham, tell us what you see, buddy.
You can see a couple of boats out there. Usually at height of the season, Muscat Cove will have anywhere up to 80 boats anchored here.
What's the temperature over there at the moment?
32. Pretty warm.
Well, I mean, because we've got a cyclone heading our way at the moment.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that out of interest because I went through one just here not too long ago. Had to drive the boat up into the creek, up into the mangrove creek, keep us safe.
God.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. So that's what they've been doing here for hundreds of years. They run the boats up into the mangroves as deep as they can till they hit the mud, and then you just put out as many lines as you can, strap yourself into the mangroves and just hang on.
What was it like? I mean, was it hectic or is it pretty protected when you're in a cyclone on a boat in the mangroves?
It was surprisingly protected, actually. It's... The wind up top was reaching, someone had 70 knots at the top of their mast, which is about 140 kilometres an hour. And that's just under a Cat 3. It was a Category 3 when it came through. But on the deck level, which is where it counts, the deck is where all the windage is on the boat, probably no more than 15 knots, not a lot more than what it is out there right now.
Okay.
So the mangroves is completely... a very safe way of doing it. It's amazingly protected in there. I think I'd be happy going up there until it got to Category 5. You know, Category 5 basically just destroys everything. But I think even in Category 4, a direct hit deep enough up the mangroves, I think you'd be all right.
Is that the first one you've been through?
Yeah, it's the first one. Yeah, I was pretty nervous. There was still a lot of boats that were here. Most people head to New Zealand because insurance doesn't cover you here in cyclone season for a storm. And most boats sail down to New Zealand, and there was still a few there at that point. So there was 43 boats and some very nervous people that were all cramming and rushing to get up into this mangrove creek all at the same time. So it was nervous times for everybody.
I mean, are you insured now because you were there during this season, or
not insured for a named storm? No. So that's the other thing to worry about. I mean, this boat is everything to us. Yeah, if we lost this boat, it'd be game over financially for us. So you got to you do everything you can to look after it.
I feel like all this boat talk, I need to put my sailor's cap on.
Oh, my God. I've got one of those too. You should have told me you were going to put that on, man. I would have whacked that on.
I feel like I need a a sailor's cap to chat about all this kind of stuff.
It suits you, mate.
No, it doesn't. Look, he looks like an idiot.
The boat life does not suit me at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't survive a
I
week.
get seasick as it is. Now, well, look, your story is very, very interesting because we all know you as a short-haired, very clean-cut, wearing a suit on the news, covering some of the biggest events of the last 20 years. And then all of a sudden in January of 23, you've just gone, fuck it. I'm going to pack up my family. I'm going to jump on a boat that I've been doing up for a couple of years, and we're just going to go out and spend life on the water for a while.
Yeah, it was quite a career. It's not to say that it's over now, but it was 29 years as a television news journalist, and probably at least 15 of those as an international correspondent. And I've covered everything you can think of, you name it, everything from hurricanes to cyclones, all the natural disasters. 4 years in the States, presidential elections. I've been to Iraq and Syria twice, so 2 war zone trips for me. One at the height of Islamic State, and another one when they were pushing Islamic State out of Mosul, so kind of the demise of Islamic State. So that's, running around, getting shot at by snipers and having bullets ricochet off your Humvee and all that kind of stuff. And I did a lot of celebrity kind of interviews, and I did 4 years of the Oscars. Yeah, I suppose it would have seemed like a bit of a shock to people that I pulled the pin and left what really was my dream job. But it actually was a plan. It was probably a 3 or a 4 year plan to get to that stage, to pull the pin and leave on the boat.
Because you've reported on some pretty hectic stuff too over the years, haven't you? So did that play a factor in wanting to get away from all the shit that the world has to offer?
It did, in that I'd be a pretty poor student if I didn't learn something from all of the hundreds of interviews and the tragedies that I've covered, because I've spoken to so many people who've had just terrible things happen to them, and family members that have fallen out of the sky in planes, kids and people very young that have got diseases that they should never have and are dead within 1 or 2 years. Unfortunately, the news is full of this stuff. It's mostly pain and suffering and people's trials, and everybody says the same thing, which is, I never thought it would happen to me. Everyone says the same thing. Everybody, without question, everybody says that. And without going all YOLO, you only live once and throw everything in. I really do think that you got to plan for your passions, and you've got to plan ahead to achieve the things you want to achieve. You shouldn't just rumble along in life thinking that it's going to go forever, because it doesn't.
Even my mum, mum and dad worked their whole lives, retired at 65, and mum got cancer not long after she retired. And it was like, I'm sure she kind of feels like she wished she had to live more, because she worked her whole life waiting to get to retirement, got sick, and hasn't really enjoyed it since.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And cancer hits everybody, my family included. And I don't think anyone lies in their hospital bed in their final kind of years wishing that they'd spent more time in the office or more time at work, or stoked that they've, watched the whole season of Game of Thrones all in one go. They're not the things that you remember. It's the experiences and the connections with people that you remember, and that's the important thing.
Okay, so that was the part of the life where you decided to drop out. What's scarier, riding a boat into your mangroves trying to avoid a hurricane or a cyclone, or getting shot at in a Humvee in Iraq? I've
been in some frightening situations for work, and and probably the worst of them is probably on par with some of the boat experiences that I've had, to be honest.
Yeah.
Getting shot at is a little unusual in that you don't really have the full effect of that fear until later. So you don't really get it in full effect, because especially with a sniper, which was mostly my experiences of getting shot at, you hear the whiz of the bullet and you hear it hit a wall, or you hear it hit something, and then you hear the crack of the rifle. So although it is frightening, it's already happened and it didn't hit you. So it's a different kind of fear. It's only later in the day that you're thinking that could have been really bad. But I had probably the worst experience for work was actually I was covering a fireworks festival down in Mexico.
Welcome to the craziest, most insane party you've ever been to.
And they have this festival down in this place called Tultepec. And Tultepec provide for America and South America more than half of the fireworks for that continent. So this place is like the fireworks capital of the world, and they have a whole suburb that's it's the biggest suburb. It's enormous. You can't see to the end of it, and there's all these just little concrete shacks everywhere. There's no electricity, signs everywhere saying no smoking, and inside and outside all these shacks are these people sifting gunpowder, making fireworks. And anyway, they have this festival, they call it Running of the Bulls, and they make these giant paper mache bulls, and they cover it with about a ton of fireworks. Everyone gets absolutely legless in the square, and then they push these giant paper mache bulls with fireworks all over them. The fireworks are going off, and they push them through the crowd and trying to run people over. And it's absolutely insane. Fireworks are firing into the crowd, showering people in all this, highly flammable phosphorescent stuff. But the guys that push the bulls, it's a sought after position. It's like, the matadors, really. And they offered me the spot. They said, do you want to push this bull? And I said, sure. Yeah, I'd love to, thinking it's going to be great for the story. So we mounted GoPros all over the bull. And then, as we're watching things go on, the crew's in completely flame retardant gear. And the guy that gave me the spot said, no, you can't wear any of that. You can wear a T-shirt. That's it. So I'm like, all right. I'll wear a T-shirt in this giant fireworks explosion. And then he said, and no matter what happens, you do not let go of the bull. You push the bull until the fireworks are finished, and he's thumping his chest like this. I said, all right. So we're pushing this bull. The fireworks are going off. I can't see anything. It is so hot, and there's just this burning embers and phosphorescence raining down on me everywhere. There's people going under the wheels of this giant bull. One lady broke a leg going under the wheels of this thing. And then I looked down, and the whole shirt that I was wearing was on fire, and the jeans were on fire.
Holy crap.
And I actually thought, I truly thought that if it wasn't the end, it was going to be a pretty bad time in hospital for a long time. And the guy that gave me the position on the bull came, he was behind me, and he came running in, and he patted the whole thing out with his bare hands and burnt all his hands, but patted out the fire on my in my clothing.
It kind of sounds like he didn't offer you it. He wanted to get the hell out of that job and gave it to you and said, you go do that, brother. This is an honor. Go, off you do.
Yeah. He gave me the spot where he knows that you catch fire.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you think he went to his mates and went, we got him. It's great. We're all out. It's fine. This Aussie dude's going to do it. Let him out. Fuck that.
They're so dumb.
Yeah, this idiot will push the bull.
Did the story look good in the end?
Yeah, it looked fantastic. It was bloody amazing. And the other thing that I remember from that story, and it's the same for other near-death experiences that I've had, like that night, you have a glow that lasts for 24, 48 hours, is far beyond any drug that you'll ever take. You just have a high of being alive and a satisfaction with still being on the planet. It's quite a rush.
Brown
Park. Big thanks to Grow Clinics for continuing to support the Brown Park podcast. And has your confidence dimmed alongside your thinning hair? Do you find yourself avoiding mirrors, hiding beneath hats, longing for the days your hair danced in the wind? Well, you're not alone. Hair loss can take a toll, but it doesn't have to steal your joy. With Grow Clinics, you can rewrite your story. They offer a path to rediscover your vibrant self, a journey towards a thicker, healthier head of hair, and their innovative techniques delivered by compassionate experts can transform not just your appearance, but your perspective. At Grow Clinics, they understand the emotional weight of hair loss. They believe in empowering you with personalised solutions, honest advice, and unwavering support. You're not just a patient, you're a partner in rediscovering your confidence strand by strand. So don't let hair loss dim your inner glow. Take the first step towards a fuller, happier you. Contact Grow Clinics today for a free consultation and learn how they can help you rewrite your narrative at growclinics.com.au. Hey, while we've got your attention,
Listen up.
we just want to ask a quick favour. If you could go to your podcast provider, wherever you're listening to this, and write a lovely review, give it a rating, do whatever you can, we would be most appreciative.
Or even at the very least, just hit that little subscribe button so then the episodes when we release them come up in your feed.
Exactly. That is all. Thanks to the show.
As you were.
Thank you.
The Brown Podcast.
So when you were in Iraq, this always fascinates me. I'm sure I've seen the stories of you in Iraq because I'm fascinated by what it's like to do those kind of things. I don't personally have the testicular fortitude to do it, but what would a typical day in Iraq look like when you're there on assignment? And do you get danger money for something like that? Does like Channel 9 or Channel 7, whoever you're working for at the time, go, you know what, your personal life insurance is probably going to cancel out right about now, so we're going to just reimburse a little bit of it for you just in case?
Yeah, well, the second time I went, Channel 7 was going through a kind of branding and becoming a bit more politically correct. So you had to go to HR for things like this. So I actually had to go to HR and tell them that I was going to Iraq and Syria. And they asked me to fill out some forms, which is normally just for, flying to another state or going on a boat somewhere or something or other, and filling out all these forms to go to Iraq and Syria, which kind of shocked them a little bit. But to answer your question, no, there's no extra danger money for a journalist, at least for me anyway. It's a real privilege to go to a place like that, namely because it's a huge story. It's something that is happening in the world that feels really important, what you're doing over there, being able to report it, especially from an Australian perspective, and bring that into the lounge room of people and make them feel like they are there. And it's a huge expense, certainly for a major network anyway, to do it. So I jump at the chance to go there. That was the first trip, so they sent me again. But your typical day is, especially with the major networks, they can't afford to have a disaster over there with one of their team being shot. It's not good. It's not great PR either.
Yeah.
So
not so good for you either.
Yeah. The typical day is quite well planned and well thought out. There's a lot of planning that goes into a trip like that. You always have someone who's running point, and they're usually a former special forces or at least former military. We were, especially when we were in the hot zones, we're wearing trackers, so GPS trackers, because kidnapping foreign journalists was quite a thing when I was there, and beheadings. So GPS trackers on all of us. We travel around in what they call soft skin vehicles, which is like a Land Cruiser that has some armor plating on it that you can't really see, but it's enough to stop small arms fire, grenades, maybe an RPG, depending on the distance that it's traveled before it hits you. But you'll have a route, and there's a company that keeps track of the vehicles and where you are. There's got to be check-ins every couple of hours, so they know where you are at all times. And they also have, it's probably not publicised, but there's the holy shit number that they can call, which is usually a special forces team from either Australia or the US, and they're not meant to be there, and you don't know that they're there, and they're there doing something else. But if shit really hits the fan, it's usually a number you can call, and the Cowboys will come in.
And how many pairs of underpants do you pack on a trip like that?
Yeah, it's a hazard. It's a hazard of the job. Yeah, the time we went to Mosul, yeah, they were setting off those suicide car bombs at 7 car bombs a day, and those things will just level a city block. There's nothing that can stop that. So if you get caught anywhere near one of those, then it's game over.
Did you get any PTSD after any of these trips like that? I mean, how do you return back to normal life? I mean, are you on edge when you get back?
Or how do you then go to the Oscars and go, so Anne Hathaway, tell us about your dress?
I've been fortunate. I think I have seen a lot of colleagues that struggle with that, but I've been really fortunate in that I've been able to sort of put it into a little compartment in that's me doing my job, and I'm a tourist there, and no matter how many terrible things I see or experience over there, I'm only there for a couple of weeks or just covering the story. These people are living through it. So I think it can be a little egotistical for you to think that it can affect you in such a way, whereas these people, this is their daily life. There's been a few moments, if the crew is there, and I'm just thinking about the job that I need to do to execute it, but sometimes when the camera crew leaves and you're surrounded by some pretty awful things. You know, sometimes you might shed a little tear, but no. But I come back. I've got an amazing life with a beautiful wife and great friends and family, and I've got nothing to complain about.
Well, I mean, he's living his therapy session now on a boat, traveling the world. I mean, this is his therapy session. But, mate, and look, and talking about politically correct, and talk about it if you will or don't want to, but I was following your journey back when you had the COVID vaccine and you had a reaction, because I had a reaction myself at the time. I ended up in hospital with an inflamed bowel, and the doctor said chances are it's a result of the vaccine, but they weren't going to document it or anything because they said they can't actually, for whatever reason, they wouldn't actually point their finger directly at that. But you copped it pretty bad, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I had pericarditis of the heart. I spent 2 days and nights in intensive care, and then another couple of days in the heart ward after that. They tried to pin it on everything under the sun, but by that stage I was a happily married man with a little daughter, so I wasn't partying, wasn't going out. All I was doing was working, surfing and doing a bit of exercise in the morning. So there was nothing else that they could attribute it to. It was attributed to the vaccine. And it took 3 or 4 months for me to recover. And it's going from a pretty fit, must have been 45 or 44-year-old or something at that point, to hardly being able to get out of bed for a couple of months almost. I could do short walks. That was it. Racing heart, pins and needles, numb in the hands and the arms. It wasn't great.
Was that the moment in your life after you'd experienced that where you've sort of gone, no, I need to go and do something different with my life? I need to go and, go and experience a bit more than just working all the time?
Not really. That COVID experience wasn't part of the decision for me to go. That's probably more related to my wife and little girl and just wanting to spend more time with them, and just the realization that now is a good time to come out and do this stuff where I'm still physically able. Yeah. I guess the only thing that it might have done is it might have just taken a little bit of the shine off working for I want to be careful how I say this, but I was perhaps just a little disappointed for the first time in a long time about some of the media coverage of COVID. So perhaps it might have contributed in a small way in me not being so concerned about my career in the media.
Okay. When you copped it and the vaccine gave you that negative medical condition, was there pressure on you to not share that story at the time, or was there parameters that at the time, people were putting on you to say, yes, you can talk about it, but only to within these guardrails?
No, not really. Because it was something that happened to me and I was only talking about my personal experience, and I think it'd be a poor decision for any network to start ordering an investigative journalist to cover something up or stop something. So it wasn't along those lines, but I was very clearly aware that there was a general push from the media that the vaccine was a very good thing, and there wasn't a lot of negative coverage about it. So I was aware that perhaps it was going against some of what the network that I was working for was reporting, but I don't see it as a huge conflict that I had there, not with my employer.
So we were talking before about a day in the life of when you were in Iraq. What does a day in the life of Denham Hitchcock look like now that he's on a boat in Fiji?
Well, look, it's very different. It's a different kind of life, and we like it for lots of different reasons, not just the time that I get to spend with the family and the places that we can visit and stay in these amazing places for months at a time, just anchoring for free. But it's a different kind of life, and we find it very healthy kind of mentally and physically to be doing this. And that's part of the reason why we started a sailing YouTube channel called Sailing Rio, which was just to show people that there is a alternative kind of lifestyle out there that doesn't have mortgage bills, doesn't have electricity bills, that doesn't have all of those normal pressures that kind of trap you into being a large-scale consumer, which is, the way society works. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there are alternatives out there, and my wife and I have kind of embraced it so far, and we love it.
Will you ever come back? Do you reckon you'll be back on land living in a bricks and mortar house again?
I don't know if we'll. I guess we will eventually, but I don't see when that time would be. I'll certainly come back to work. I'll do odd jobs here and there. I'll never lose my passion for telling stories, so that will still happen. But it probably just won't be, at least in the short term, won't be a full-time job for me. And coming back, when we make trips back to see friends and family, things are really rushed, and the schedules of everybody is just insane. You're trying to catch up with your friends, and they're like, well, I've got to take Emmy to ballet, and then I've got to take Charlie to rugby, and we can see you between 4 and 5 p.m. on Thursday. And other friends will say, well, we can't see you in the afternoon. Well, we can see you. We'll meet up for breakfast somewhere. And I mean, life is hectic, I suppose, but we've stepped a little bit back from that, and now we just see it a little bit differently, I suppose.
And your schedule is like, no, I might just go for a swim and lunch. Well, how about we do fish?
Well, you asked what the usual schedule is, so we do. I still kind of run a Monday to Friday. There's some stories that I'm still working on that I'd like to tell, so I work a Monday to Friday kind of gig. We both get up early in the morning. We do some kind of exercise, and then I do a little bit of work. But and a lot of the days spent either doing maintenance or preventative maintenance on the boat. Like this morning, I was cleaning all the hull underneath so the boat can still sail at its best abilities. Yesterday, we spent 2 hours on land looking for coconuts and mangoes, to stock up the veggies. Tomorrow is going to be like a nice tide at a reef I know for Spanish mackerel and some large pelagic fish. So I'll go out spearfishing for a couple of hours because we have to supplement our food here for protein if we want to stay out in the islands, and also to make it work financially. A lot of the time is spent foraging for food, which is a lot of the time spearfishing for me, which gives us lunch and dinner, and foraging just for coconuts and mangoes or whatever's in season on the islands. So yeah, it's a mix of I guess it's the same as home, but there's a lot more simple kind of subsistence living going on, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, because, man, how old are you now?
Yeah, I'm 47.
Because you are a unit. I mean, how do you stay in shape like that? Because I've got a gym which I don't actually use. I'm thinking about going back, but I'm assuming you don't have access to the gym. So it's just, how do you keep in that shape? You're a unit, like I say.
Yeah, I haven't been to a gym in probably about 5 years now, 4 or 5 years. It's a very active life. If the surf is on, I'll surf 3 or 4 hours a day if it's on. And I've got a secondhand wing foiling kit, so I've been getting into that a little bit. And if I'm not doing that, I'm spearfishing, or I'm cleaning the hull, or I'm climbing the mast to do something or other. Or sailing is quite active. It's a really active lifestyle, and the food that we eat is mostly homegrown, clean, no preservatives and no kind of sauces and additives. And not because we don't like that stuff, it's just that we can't really get it.
It's not like it's a drive-through KFC at Fiji.
A sail through KFC.
We do quite well, I reckon, a sail through KFC. But yeah. There's none of that stuff. We bake our own bread because there's no bakery to go to, so we make our own bread. My wife is an amazing cook, so she does the odd sort of cake and treats and stuff like that, but it's mostly rice, pasta, fresh fish, locally sourced chicken. So it's a simple diet combined with a very active lifestyle. There's probably and a lot of push-ups in the morning.
Brown Park.
A massive thank you as always to our sponsors, Grow Clinics. Now, if you're sick of hiding under hats, dreading beach days, or feeling embarrassed about your receding hairline, Grow Clinics doesn't settle for second best, especially when it comes to our confidence. That's why Grow Clinics brings you world-class hair transplants right here in our own backyard. No need for overseas trips. Grow Clinics uses cutting-edge Aussie know-how to give you back a full, healthy head of hair. They use proven techniques delivered by expert Aussie hands in locations right around the country. Grow Clinics is about mateship, transparency, honesty, and getting you the results you deserve. So take control of your hair loss today. Visit their website at growclinics.com.au to schedule a free consultation. And if you like, tell them Brown Park sent you.
Follow the Brown Park podcast on socials at Brown Park Official.
Do you have a book in you? Because I was just obviously researching this podcast, and just like you were saying, you've been to Iraq, you've been to Vatican City where you were with the Pope. Did you meet the Pope, by the way?
No, I didn't meet the Pope on that trip, but yeah, I was there for a few weeks, and that was Benedict left and Pope Francis came in. So yeah, I was only a few feet from him a lot of times. That was quite a trip.
Yeah, and like Osama's death, Hurricane Sandy, which you've almost been through now on your boat. But there's got to be a book in this, and then how you go from all of that and what seems to be on paper a full-on existence where you're not fighting for your life, but you've got to watch out for your life constantly, to now just a laid back, more of a laid back. You're still fighting for your life because you've got to go and get your food and stuff, but more of a real existence, I guess.
There's definitely a lot less stress. I will give it that. And there is something, at least to me anyway, that feels quite wholesome in going out and providing food for the family and keeping the boat running. I mean, our whole world is this boat. It's 12 meters by 7.2 meters. Everything on it, all the systems have to be working, because out here in Fiji, you can't just pull up to a dock and get water. Water's not really drinkable. And food is kind of hard to come by. Everything has to be working, and there's something nice about just kind of maintaining that, about that being your entire kind of safety all wrapped up in one. And we could travel on this boat. We could travel anywhere in the world, and we're kind of considering doing a circumnavigation.
Wow.
How does your 3-year-old daughter go? Because you've got a 3-year-old, right?
Yeah, I've got a 3-year-old girl, and that's interesting, because a lot of people would probably think this lifestyle wouldn't work because they've got kids or they're going to have kids, and that's what my wife and I first thought. Our first boat, which was a monohull, and we moved into that, and we sailed out to Lord Howe, New Caledonia, and Vanuatu, and we kind of had the idea that we'd sail out to these places, we'd have our little sailing adventure, then we'd come back, have kids, settle into land life, and do what everyone else does. But we saw so many people out there with kids, 3 years old, 5 years old, babies in the cockpit, strapped into baby seats, and all these kids were amazing. There's these little brown-skinned ragamuffins with dreadlocked hair, and 6-year-olds will come over into the anchorage when you arrive on a paddleboard and paddle up to you and ask you what your top speed was in your crossing and where you came from. And they're just very outgoing and very social, because they have to be, because you come into an anchorage and sometimes they know they've only got a couple of days, so they make friends instantly, and they're very outgoing.
Yeah, cool.
So we thought, well, why don't we just do that? So our 3-year-old Kaya, well, to be fair, she doesn't know any different life. She came straight from the hospital to the boat, so she doesn't know anything different. She thinks all kids live on boats. She will often ask kids, where their boat is. But she's a proper little sailor. It doesn't matter how rough it is in the anchorage or sailing overnight. She just sleeps, like a baby down in her room. And out here, she's been more social than what she was at home, because kids roll into this anchorage in particular in Fiji. There's a lot of boats and there's a lot of kids, and they all get together and just play on the beach and tear around in dinghies, and kids will come pick her up and we'll just put a life jacket on her and off she goes for a couple of hours with some kids that we don't even know. So it's
Wow.
yeah, it's been amazing. I think it's been incredible for her.
She's going to surf better than you in no time, isn't she? She'll pick it up quick.
Well, she better surf. Otherwise, she'll have to go and stay with other members of the family. I'll be very upset.
She'll go to another boat.
He doesn't surf. Yeah.
And just quickly, what is the name of your boat?
The name of the boat is Rio.
Rio. Okay. Any reason?
Yeah, my wife is Brazilian. She was born in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah, when we bought the boat, we didn't like the original name, so we changed it to that.
And look, before we let you go, and I was talking to a mate that we're going to have a chat with you, and he followed your dad. Your dad was in journalism for a long time too, and broke his neck when you were young.
Yeah, he did. When he was younger than I am now, he must have been 40, 41, I think. He broke his neck when I was 14 over a rope swing over the Hawkesbury River. Yeah, so he was at that stage news director, I think, for Channel 10, and he broke his neck, sunk down under the water, and after about a minute of me thinking he was going to come up and grab my legs, and he never did, I started duck diving, and I saw his shorts at the bottom of the Hawkesbury River it was, and so I dove down, pulled him back up, and and brought him in. He's thankfully still with us. in a wheelchair. He hasn't got a lot of movement, so he watches a lot of news, and he was my number one supporter and also my number one critic. If I got any of my grammar wrong, he'd be on the phone straight away.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Well, look, I think what you've done is phenomenal. Like obviously in your work life, but also now in your personal life to do something like this. And thanks for making us very jealous of being on a boat in Fiji.
That's all right, fellas. Yeah, I often think I should probably post a little more about the days when I'm doing the plumbing or changing out the engine parts or down in the bilge scraping all the muck up.
No, don't ruin the dream. Stop it. No, we don't need that.
Right, yeah. I'll keep it to sunshine and coconuts.
Yeah, nice.
But I mean, look. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's great that you are actually sharing your journey, because it's showing people that there is potentially an alternate way to live, which I think, you're living in a sustainable way too, which is ultimately helping the environment. So I think it's awesome that you're showing people that.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. I mean, I look at the news and I see how much trouble that people are in with repayments of mortgages and bills going up, and I think that there's lots of different alternative lifestyles out there. People go off into the mountains or go and live in a caravan and so forth. So it depends on what floats your boat. But there are alternative ways to live that I think is more mentally helpful and more healthy. So I think it's a good thing that people should know that the path that they're on, if they don't like it, you can change it. There's that great Confucius quote that says, every man at some point realizes that he's got two lives, and that happens when he understands that he only has one. So you start the second life when you realize that you only got one.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
Yeah. Well, Captain Denham Hitchcock, thank you very much for joining us on the Brown Park podcast today.
You're welcome. And please drop in on Rio. If you're wearing that hat, you'll be the captain.
Yeah. You don't want me as a captain on a boat.
No worries. Thanks a lot, fellas. It was a pleasure to chat.
The Brown Park Podcast.
Why are you happy?
Because I don't want to be